Hey everybody, and welcome to another Stukent Expert Session. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Alex Oliviera. With more than 10 years of experience in digital marketing, Alex is a seasoned professional with a reputation for driving business growth through lead generation and search engine optimization. Alex holds important industry certifications from OMCP, Google, Facebook, and more. With a proven track record with small businesses and enterprise companies such as Home Depot, AutoNation, MetLife, Ford, and others, Alex's expertise in the digital marketing industry has led to opportunities to write for Forbes magazine, speak at more than 50 conferences, and lead 150 workshops. He believes in lifetime learning and continues his own education daily, as well as sharing his knowledge as a guest lecturer at several universities. Alex has been a valued board member of several nonprofit organizations over the years, as well as working with nearly 100 nonprofits in various roles. Alex has the privilege to serve as a board of director for the South Florida Interactive Marketing Association and SEMPO, a global digital marketing association. We're very excited to have you on with us today, Alex. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Alex Oliviera, and welcome to the masterclass, webinar, whatever you want to call it. Today we're going to be talking about the 12 questions that you want to ask a web developer, designer, or an agency before you build a new website, or perhaps you are in the process of building a current website, rebuilding a current website, and you are trying to figure out what do you need to improve, do you need to move on to another CMS. There's just a lot of questions. I always like to compare building a website to building a home. Think about it. You hire an architect, you buy the land, you need a builder, you need materials, you need subcontractors. There's a timeline, there's a team, there are budgets to be dealt with. There are so many moving parts to building a house, right? And so many things can go wrong. And no matter how much planning you do, it never goes exactly according to plan. So you have to try to figure out where are you going to leave room for flexibility, and where are you going to say, hey, this has to happen exactly this way. For example, a deadline. If you have a deadline to build your new website in 6 months, great, lead with that. That's a deliverable and outcome that you're saying needs to happen, right? So let's start with that first, because I think that's really, really important, the budget, right? And so when we're comparing the different components and parts of a website, it's the same thing as the house. It's the budget, right? So you really have to figure out, what is it that you're trying to accomplish here? Do you have a surge in traffic? Do you need to drive more traffic? Do you need a better user experience? Are some clients not liking the website any longer? So there's just a lot of questions that you have to ask before you go into building the new website. So keep that in mind. It's super important to follow a process. And when you're selecting the web developer and designer, or both, could be a shop that does both, you really want to ask some of these questions, because oftentimes what I see happening, the biggest gripe, I should say, that I get from clients, and we do a lot of outsourcing with our web development because our core competency is really lead generation. We are in the traffic driving business. Over the last 10 years, we've driven over 22 million leads and easily 250 million clicks to websites, both small businesses, but many Fortune 500s. So to drive that much traffic, you want to make sure that you have a website that functions properly so that the customer can have the best experience, you can generate the leads and close the sales and get the ROI. So super, super important. So you just want to really take a step back and address some of these questions so that they don't jump out at you halfway through the project, right? Some agencies or shops are better than others. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the differences between a developer and a designer, and whether they use a methodology like Agile versus no methodology, whether they want to use a content management system or recommend to you like WordPress versus a massive system like Sitecore. There's lots of implications, but ultimately it comes down to what is the outcome. Why are you redesigning the website? And what are you looking for the website to do? One quick thing about budget is this. You can't come to the table and trying to hire a developer, designer, a team, a content creating team, and say, hey, I want to build a 5,000 page website to compete with the biggest guys in my industry who are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in business. And I want to do all of that in 6 months. And my budget is $5,000. And I want to generate $10 million worth of sales. That's not going to happen. And I know most of you business people, marketers, entrepreneurs, leaders know that that's not going to happen. You get what you pay for, and an investment is an investment, right? But be realistic. Try to tie that with your C-level team, the owners and stakeholders, and try to really say, look, our revenue is X. What percent of revenue should we really dedicate towards this? Like what percentage do you dedicate towards IT or security and things like that? So same thing for the web design. Are you going to put it in your plan that you're going to redesign a new website or update it every 5 years, every 3 years? And if so, how much money are you going to put into that? So many questions that you could ask. So let's get right into it. All right, great. Let's start with the first and really most important question when it comes to figuring out why you're redesigning the website. Once you've gone past that question, naturally the next question is, who is your customer? So who is your customer is a very, very important question that needs to be answered by marketing. Whoever is in marketing, I would venture to say sales for sure, but the C-level, most companies that don't have a marketing team, the owners will know who the customer is. Who is the target audience? Who do you serve? Well, it's not so hard to look too far because you can look in your own database and look at the demographics, psychographics, geolocation. Like, who are you serving? What are some of the behaviors that these people have? Is there a certain age group? So are you looking to build a website that is geared towards that age group? So really look at who your customer is. It's a very important question. Then really thinking about, once you've decided that you're going to build a website, is looking at the difference between designers, developers. The designer is more the creative person, and the developer is no doubt the technical person, right? So it's like left brain, right brain. And again, it's not one size fits all. I've worked with many designers and developers that can dabble on the other side of the business, or even do both very well. So it's not to say that they're not out there, but depending on the size of your project, you may need to get both at the table. I always like to liken the website design. I compare it to the building a home, but then I put it in 3 buckets really. And the first bucket is the design, the second bucket is development, and the third bucket is content. Because without really thoughtful content, it won't matter how great your design and development is. So that's super important to make sure that you have a marketing team that understands that. Branding is also important, right? And that's a function of marketing. So when you're thinking about your brand, the colors, what emotions does it evoke? Look at the competitors in your industry and figure out what are they doing different that is setting them apart from the competition. So take a look at that and get inspired, right? So the first question that I would ask if I'm hiring a new agency or web developer, web designer is, can you send me a list of projects you've designed? So a portfolio, a link, a list of customers that I can certainly talk to. Very, very important. And you want to follow up on that. It's super important. You might find out that the customers that they've served are nowhere near the types of products or services or companies that can compare to yours. So that might set, I wouldn't say be a setback, but it might get you to think about, do I want someone who works on the same site, same industry all the time, or do I want someone that can think outside the box because they don't always work here? I can make a case for an advantages and disadvantages to both. Okay, but it's super important. And I think when you get that list of websites that they've designed or projects, you're also going to follow up on the communication. How did they communicate? Because we're going to talk about that in this session here, but it is really super important. That honestly, beyond the budget and timelines, the things that can really break a relationship or make your new website design experience really terrible is communication. So you really want to figure out how that goes. So make sure you have their website samples. The next thing you want to know is find out about their methodology. Are they using Agile? You know, for us, we're not web developers. We're in the lead generation business, but we understand Agile, and it's a mindset. And so when we're building out a project, if it's a small project, we'll break it up into 6 phases. And you can see here, from the brief proposal to coding, all the way to launching the website from beta in like a testing environment, and then getting feedback, cleaning it up, and then going live. So a website like this, about let's say 1,000-page website, can take us 3 to 4 months to build if they already have the content. So that's just to give you an idea, right? So, you know, ask those questions. What process do you use? Can you share that with me? A web developer and designer should have no problem providing you with a process like this. And of course, it's more in depth. There should be many pages that explain what each of these are. So what you don't want to end up with is the $1 million homepage. And you know, this site is funny because that was the goal here, was for them to get over 1 million pixels, you know, of images to each company's logo. And so, but again, the website that you're going to develop is probably not going to look like this, but I just always think it's funny because traditional media websites are typically like that, right? There's clickbait, and you go here and you go there, and you feel like you're in a casino. And I still can't figure out why they do it that way, like the newspapers in print. Because I get it, it works in print, but it doesn't work online, where you're hitting people up with a bunch of ads, and it's such a bad experience. It really is. And so companies, you really want to think about making the website as simple and clean as possible. A question you're going to ask, question number 2 that you're going to ask the developer and the designer, or again, going back to, you may find an agency that does both very well. You're going to ask, do you charge by project or do you charge hourly? Now, some platforms like a Sitecore may charge based on the amount of traffic that you get, right? Because if the platform, like it used to be like with Adobe Catalyst before they discontinued it, that you had plans that was based on the bandwidth, right? How much bandwidth you needed on their cloud. So, and that really comes back to how many clicks do you need on the website? How much data do you want to house? Is there a back-end portal for people to log into, or customers? So it really depends, right? And so some guys, some developers, designers will say, hey, we're going to charge you hourly. And by the way, here's the wireframe, and here's our strategy and proposal. It looks like it's going to take 200 hours to build this project, and we're charging you $85 an hour for this guy, and then $120 for this database guy. And they'll break it up like that in line items, and then you can review it and say, was that in my budget or not? Or depending on your project or how big it is, you may say, hey, I'm looking for a turnkey because our budget is X, right? And I've certainly had clients come to us over the years and do that and say, hey, my website is 2,000 pages. I'm focused on SEO. I already have all the content. I want to make sure it gets migrated properly. I need a new simple design that can work fast for the user. And the development is going to be very simple. We can use a theme. Let's say they come to me and say, look, my budget is $25,000. I'm going to look at my team in the way that I laid out those phases. I'm going to look at each person on the team and then spread it out, put pen to paper and just see if it meets the budget. And if it doesn't, I'll tell the client it doesn't, right? And they'll probably go elsewhere. But for you, it's a question that you really have to ask, because beyond the completion of the project, if you're not happy with some part, or all of a sudden at the end, which happens so often, at the end you say, well, actually, I don't like the page that way. And by the way, Alex, remember you suggested we do the layout of this page this way and the functionality that way. And you say, but now I want to change it. Well, you're going to have, a surprise. You're going to have a bill. And I'm going to need that change order to be approved, and you're going to have to sign off on it. And you're going to say, boy, but you're charging me to do that. Well, yeah, because the project, the scope of work was this, and now you are at the last minute saying, I want to change it all around. So it's really important to make sure you get clear on that. Some places where you can find content creation on a budget: Upwork. Upwork is also to find your developer, your designers. You can find also on Text Broker, copywriters. For design, you can hire a service like Design Pickle, where you might pay about, let's say, $300 to $500 a month, and you have a full-time designer, or unlimited designs, I should say. Question also you want to ask here, number 3, is do you have a project manager or one contact for the entire project? Getting back to the communication part of what we were talking about, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? If you're working with 3-4 different people, it's going to get messy. And do you have to get on calls every week? When do you get to see the sample? These are questions that you want to ask that person if you're going to have an account manager or project manager for the project. Ask them what kind of wireframes they build. Where did they build it on? On the left here, you see some of the platforms that exist out there. There's so many more. Or you can just sketch it out on, with a pencil and say, hey, here's what I want on my home page above the fold with my menu. And then here's the call to action, 3 sections. In the footer, I want you to do this. So sketch it out and get the sitemap to figure out how many pages you need in the website. And chances are, if you do a website audit and a content audit, you're going to come up with a lot of pages that you probably will get rid of that is content that was timely, but not really evergreen. So that's really, really important too. Customer journey. Before you start your new project, I would recommend that you do a customer journey map and understand every touch point through the customer experience. So a great piece of software would be Hotjar, and it's basically to evaluate the current behavior of users going to your website. So of course you can do that with Google Analytics and other web analytics tools, but this one gives you the visual heat map. Where are people clicking? Where are they spending most of their time? These heat maps and recordings will help you create a marketing funnel that gives your user a better experience. And by the way, that's not always something that web developers and web designers want to be involved with, because now you're getting out of the tech side of the business and creative, right, to build your website, and going more into the marketing side. And again, sure, they may have knowledge, but really you want to talk to the marketing person who understands how to generate traffic and leads to the website. And Hotjar, and also you could use Microsoft Webmaster Tools. They have a heat map solution there. Question number 4 is, how many revisions am I allowed? That's very important. When you do your content audit, you're going to figure out how many pages, what you're going to keep, improve, and remove. Okay, you're going to use software like SEMrush to identify opportunities and do a deeper dive into your keywords. All right, you really want to make sure you figure out what content you keep and which content you get rid of and create new one. Payment terms is really, really important. I had written down here is, tie payment to benchmark, right? Certain milestones. So if you get, let's say, 25% of the project done, I will pay you each time another quarter of the total payment. Don't just pay 50% up front. I mean, obviously, if that's their policy, I get it. But I would recommend that you create a payment schedule attached to each completion phase. kind of back to keyword research here real quick for a minute. Again, I mentioned SEMrush, but you can use Keyword Planner tool. You can use lots of tools, keyword.io. There's lots of tools for you to figure out. And that's really important, right? After all, if you're looking to design a new website, it's clearly so that you can service your customers. So you got to figure out what keywords are they using to search for you, right? And think of design, the website, the content management system that you choose, whether it's WordPress, Sitecore, even the platforms like Wix, which I'll talk about in a second. I mean, it's a lot like a smartphone. These systems are constantly being improved due to security, due to changes and updates. So think about a website itself like your smartphone. It's constantly changing and it needs to adapt, right? So the design that you make needs to be really, you need to really think 2, 3, 4 years ahead. And talking to your clients and doing a survey is a great way to better understand the needs. 3 types of search, right? When people are looking at it. And the main 2 that most companies are looking at is transactional and informational. So you really want to figure that out, because the search intent of users will dictate a lot what kind of content you keep and how you optimize it. And it is important because it goes beyond just designing a new website. Trends.google.com. Here's another tool from Google to better understand what is trending in your industry. Answer the Public, fantastic tool for content to really understand how people are asking the questions about your product or service or industry. Again, this will formulate how you're going to create content. It's content that is self-promotional or content that is for the user, really empathetic content, right? So free guides, interviews, infographics, reviews. After all, we all try to get reviews for clients and then tie it to the website so that clients can see that trust factor. And really, that's you thinking about the end user more than anything. Even though it is self-serving, it's about that, right? And then case study falls somewhere right here in the Venn diagram, where it's really beneficial for you to create case studies and your sales team, but also for the user. So back to what I was just mentioning between the content management systems and which one you'll build it in. And these are only like 6 of the content management systems that are out there. There are thousands, literally thousands. But the main ones that you hear about is WordPress. They power over 30% of the internet. Despite what some people say, there is no security issues. Yes, it is open source. But at the end of the day, if you address all the security issues that exist with every content management system and even apps on your phone, you're not going to have a problem. You just won't. I've worked and built thousands of websites over the last decade. I've never really had any major issue with WordPress that I wouldn't have on Joomla, Drupal, Shopify, or anywhere else, right? So it is important for you to understand which content management system is best for you. WordPress is the most robust. So when it comes to applications and functions that you can use on the website, like plugins, which are basically mini applications, they're going to have the most. But again, not all of them are going to be made the same way, because some are free. Just like apps on your phone, some apps are free. The better apps you pay for. Same thing with WordPress. If you pay for an app, it's going to be more secure and a better experience. Apps, the same thing. So sometimes people forget that when they get into a content management system, they just start downloading plugins. You shouldn't do that. You should talk to the developer, figure out when was the last update that was done, and so on and so forth. But definitely think about the content management system. If you're doing e-commerce, there's no doubt that the Mac Daddy of all content management systems is Shopify, and it is good, easy to work with, right? You get the hosting with it. And then you have your other, I'd say starter solutions, which are like Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy. I would liken that to renting a website, because yes, you're getting the hosting and the content management system, but once you stop paying, you don't get to take the web design development with you. The only thing you get to take with you is the content. So if you're a startup, that's fine. But if you're a serious company wanting to generate lots of traffic and do SEO, you're not going to choose these platforms down here like Squarespace, Wix. You're going to go more towards the Joomlas, Drupals, and WordPress. Now, what support do you offer once the website is live? It's very important. Once they do the beta test, right? Are they going to train you? Do they connect the website to all the other APIs? Do they offer integration into your CRM, your content, customer relationship management software for your sales team? Do they connect it to your Facebook page, to your Google? There's so many tools that you need in order to be able to measure performance on the web. Your web analytics clearly, like coming up here. Here's a snapshot of Google Analytics. That's another integration. Now, even though these are simple integrations, these are questions you want to ask. What kind of support are you going to give? Hey, we designed, developed, we got the content ready. Now I need all my tools. Are they going to take care of that? Yes or no? And if so, how much? Super important. Also, you want to get on the same page with your web design, really the developer, but the designer too. But the developer in this part is trying to figure out the funnel and the workflow of when someone clicks here, where do they go? What do they do? How does that impact, right? If you look at a heat map or Google Analytics in the behavior section, you can see where people drop off on certain pages. So try to look at that first before you redesign the workflow. And a lot of times you can design your workflow inside of the CRM automation, marketing automation tools like Marketo or HubSpot, Zoho. There are many out there. The one that I'm showing you here is called Active Demand. But yeah, just drag and drop, right? If someone downloads an ebook, then they go here into the database, then they're shown a video, yes and no logic, that sort of a thing. Super important, but it's not the responsibility of the designer or developer or even the content creator. It's the marketing team who needs to figure out what that customer journey and lead workflow really looks like. Question number 8, do you work using templates, themes, or custom sites, right? So there are a bunch of marketplaces. My favorite two are Creative Market and Envato. So you can buy WordPress themes on there for as little as $2, right? And most of the good themes are between $50 and $60, but they're basically templates of websites that are ready and semi-custom. So the design is basically done. Now you just take it to the developer and get it ready. Now, if you're building a robust website with thousands of pages, then you need to build a custom website. Absolutely, right? But for most small businesses or solopreneurs, a theme is going to satisfy everything. You can look at the plugins and the customer journey and just everything. SEO, you'll address everything with a theme. So if you're a small business or getting less than, let's say, less than 10,000 clicks a month on a website, you may not need a robust, custom site. Although you may have high-end clients that you want to build an experience for. So that might be a case, right? If you're working with high-end clients, big ticket items, luxury brands, then yes, you're just going to spend whatever it takes to give them the best experience. Chances are you're building a back end as well, which is a question you really want to figure out before you go build a website. Will the website be responsive? Look, it's 2021. It's been a couple years since Google started rolling out mobile first indexing, which impacts your SEO. And, most websites that I come across, as much as 50, 60, upwards of 70% of the users are coming from a smartphone. That's where people start and end their journey. Many people are not even using tablets or desktops outside of working hours. So something that you really want to look at. And more than likely, any designer developer today is going to be looking at, yes, we design mobile first, right? And who will write and migrate the content? That is so important. Like, here's the periodic table of content marketing. You've got it by color charts. You've got strategy, format, content type, so on and so forth. you're going to get together with your team and take an inventory of all the content that you've created and figure out what types of content do we need on the new website, and how does that impact the design and the workflow, right? So if you're doing videos, do you need a video gallery? How is the layout of the blogs going to look? Those are all super important things. What type of services do you provide? We talked about it before: integrations, security. Do they build a backend? Can they build an app into it? Really important, if you're looking for leads, you need landing pages. Landing pages are just a simple form of your website, right? It usually has a form, and if you're doing e-commerce, it's the product with the shopping cart. But it's a headline, a picture, some trust factors, and a call to action button. No social media buttons, no links on the page. The point is to convert the user into a lead. That is the point. So you want to make sure the designer and developer understand the importance of landing pages for your sales team. Not just marketing, but sales as well. And it's important to really figure out, when you're redesigning your website, what the offers are going to be in those landing pages. Your offers are your products. So if you have 100 products, have 100 landing pages. Have multiple variations of those landing pages. Right? Also figure out multinational here. I had it on my notes because this one is really important. It has big implications when it comes to YouTube and search engines. So make sure that if you are serving clients abroad, that they talk about what kind of plugin or application they're going to use for translation, right? Don't just use Google Translate. It's free and it's not that good. Go get a paid plugin. So again, about video here, you want to look at video. There are more than 500 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute, right? Your strategy needs to include video. People love watching videos today because they're quick, they're easy. So it's auditory, visual, and the reading. Yes, we need to create copy for the website, but it's mostly for search engines and for avid readers, right? Who frequent websites like Quora.com and Reddit. But most people go to video because it's easy. You can do it with sound in the background or caption. So make sure you address video. It's super important. You're leaving money on the table if you're not creating video. The only thing I would say is never embed video, like the actual embed code from YouTube onto your website. Here's why. First of all, it's not such a hot experience on YouTube. I usually do YouTube because I want to generate leads. So I drive traffic to videos. I'm not looking to get viral. What I would do for any website is really build a seamless experience. No brands of the video hosting company. So again, YouTube's giving you free hosting. That's why they're going to drive you and let the user click YouTube. What you really want to do is get a solution like Vimeo so that you can, again, they're like a YouTube, but much better tools. It's basically video hosting. And then you can embed a nice, clean video gallery, right? That doesn't make the user go outside of there onto YouTube, where they're then seeing the competitors and really sometimes content that has nothing to do with yours, and then they're off somewhere else. So imagine you did all of that to drive a click to the website, and now they're gone. Don't do that. How-to videos, we talked about types of videos here. And then think about other things like case studies. How are you going to build it and lay it out on your website? Ebooks, how are you going to do that? Will you connect FAQs to Quora? Your email marketing has to be incorporated into the website. How and where will you ask users? What software will you use to integrate with the website? These are questions that you want to ask the developer. We already touched on the analytics piece of it. Very important. Obviously, web analytics is very important. Whether it's Google Analytics, Cloudflare, Clicky, and there are others out there as well. And then the last question really is, what kind of results are you expecting, right? And if you're not happy at the end of the process, what are they going to do to rectify it? Because now if you've created a budget and they're coming back to you and saying, hey, to make these changes, it's going to cost more. and you didn't understand that early on, like how do you rectify a problem? And it's a question that you want to ask them. Look, how are you going to achieve my results, right? The outcomes I'm looking for. But if we have a difference of opinion, how does that work? And I can tell you that has happened to me and my company many times, where the client is not getting back to us on time to make the changes on the website or review it. And then 6 months later, when the website is late upon delivery, they're looking to us to, figure out why we're late. And you're going, well, we have all the communication here showing that you didn't do your part. So just figure it out. There's always two sides to a story, but I can also give you tons of examples of websites that were finished not only early, on budget, and the delivery was everything that the customer was expecting and then some. And I can tell you that only happens when the company and their entire team, whether it's marketing, sales, IT, when they're really involved with our team and they're coming back in real time. So consider that. But look, bring the stakeholders, your C-suite, your managers, your salespeople, your marketing people, your customers, they're stakeholders too, your vendors. If you have products that you put on your website from vendors, you want to address that. And then budget, super, super important. Be realistic with your budget. The timeline, be a little flexible, because sometimes there are things that can happen along the way that will push the timeline. So figure out, if you do push out the timeline, how does that work? Ask the developer, if I stopped for a month, well, am I going to be bumped to later on in the year? These are questions you want to ask, right? And I like this little cartoon here. I thought you did websites for businesses on a budget. I didn't say it was a small budget. And that's it. You got to talk about that at the beginning. Don't expect to build a $5,000 website and then turn around, drive millions of clicks and generate tons of revenue, billions of dollars in revenue. You're not going to do that, right? I've built the biggest website that our company ever built was about $250,000. Again, we are not website developers. What we do is lead generation, drive traffic. But as a result, we end up having to build websites. And $250,000 website is a pretty decent website for a company. So, but there's a huge process and lots of people involved in there, right? And so what I'm going to leave you guys with here today for the, Stukent, I've put together a whole list of really good resources that you can use in your business, not just for the website, but for lead generation, to drive clicks, a whole host of things that have to do with digital marketing, right? Digital marketing and lead generation. So the first thing is the guide. You're going to have the links here, and you can download them right from the link that they're going to provide you with. Everything from the page speed tools to the ebook. I've got a list of 40 plus tools that we use, that you should be using in marketing. I've got a social media kit over here, just a ton of really valuable tools that you can use with your business. But look, here's the deal. Websites are hard to build. They take time. But in today's world and economy, you have to constantly be optimizing and thinking about the end user. And that's just not something that you can go without. So go out there, audit your website, figure it out, ask the questions, interview 3 to 5 web developers and designers. You can do it on a platform like Upwork, or you can just search on LinkedIn or talk to your industry people. But be realistic with what you want. Understand why you're doing it to begin with. All right. And if you guys have any questions, you can certainly put them into the chat or forum, and you can also email me and my team at alex@predictmedia.com. My phone number and my LinkedIn are on there. I can't wait to do more of these master classes with you guys here at Stukent. It's been a real pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck.